Welcome to News Laundry Chhota Hafta. For the full episode, subscribe because it is behind the paywall and only subscribers get access to uncut, complete content. News Laundry Hafta is our weekly wrap of all that made the news, all that didn't, and all that should have and all that shouldn't have. We agree, we disagree, we critique, and occasionally we beat each other up. But it's all good fun. Subscribe.
This is a News Laundry podcast and you're listening to NL Hafta.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of Hafta. I'm back. I was traveling last week to the Mathrubhumi Festival of Books, I think, or of words. I forget what it's called exactly. Which Mathrubhumi is the oldest newspaper in Malayalam. And I must say it's a huge festival. It's, I think, bigger than the Jaipur Lit Fest. It's my first time there. So
bigger
thank you.
Bigger than Jaipur Lit Fest?
Yeah, dude, it's huge. And the thing is, Mallus generally... in Jaipur Lit Fest, you see a kind of person. Yeah, it's called the Mathrubhumi International Festival of Letters. You see one kind of people, or the youngsters who are there to just hang out with each other, eat tikki. Yeah, as I overheard something, it's ladkiyan taadne chalte hain. So which means let's check out the girls. But here, across the socio-economic brackets divide, there is, of course, I can't understand what it's in Malayalam, but like my hosts, they were telling me that this is a writer, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. That discussion, there was about 200, 300 people of all sorts, ages, demographics, socio-economic. So Malayalam, Kerala really has a culture, and I guess Malayalam literature has readers from, across to this thing. So, so I'm back. So today joining us in the studio are two very special guests whose book... I hope you will get the time to read. In fact, we will give out 7 signed copies and I will tell you how you can get those 7 signed copies. But the two people are Dinesh Thakur and Prashant Reddy. Hi, Dinesh.
Hi, Abhinandan. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Abhinandan.
Yes, also you can see my interview with them, which is just about the book on News Laundry, which will be up later this week. And with us is our usual gang, Raman Kirpal.
Hi.
And Manisha Pande.
Hi.
So, let me tell you a little bit about the book. We will discuss it in brief before we talk about the going-ons in the country and across the world. This is, many of you already know Dinesh because we have interviewed him in the past on the book that was based on his whistleblowing information that came out. But this is about the pharma industry in general, regulation in India, and how deeply worrisome it is and how it impacts us so profoundly, because health and medicine is something we all take across socio-economic bracket. So that's what this book is about. We will hear a little bit about it from them. But before that, let's get the headlines.
A lot has happened in Parliament this week. We heard chants of Modi Modi, chants of Modi Adani Bhai Bhai. Some unparliamentary language used by Mahua Mitra. She used the H word.
What is the H word?
Harami. Ending with I, starting with H.
And she said he stands by it.
Yeah. And she was referring to BJP MP Biduri,
who was kind of heckling her.
Right.
Meanwhile, Rahul Gandhi gave a speech in Lok Sabha questioning Modi's closeness to Adani. 18 of his remarks on Adani have been expunged or removed from the records of Parliament by orders of the Speaker. He accused Prime Minister Modi of helping Gautam Adani's business empire cross-sector, prompting emphatic rebuttals from BJP. The Prime Minister also gave 2 speeches in Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. He tore into the Congress, spoke about his achievements as this big vote magnet and how his greatness cannot be defeated by Congress's meaningless jibes. So we'll speak about that in detail. Police has detained People's Democratic Party chief Mehbooba Mufti from taking out a march to Parliament to protest against an ongoing anti-encroachment drive in Jammu and Kashmir. The woes of Adani Group companies continue as global stock index compiler Morgan Stanley Capital International said it will cut the free float status of 4 of the conglomerate's firms. Norway's wealth fund's phased divestment in Adani Group also came to an end. The Life Insurance Corporation also, meanwhile, sought an explanation from Adani Group about the recent fall in its share prices.
They sought or they said they will seek?
They said they will.
They haven't sought yet.
Okay. So they said we will seek. And we'll also ask them how they're going to deal with the ongoing crisis. Meanwhile, the Adani Group is also planning to prepay $500 million loan due next month to a group of foreign banks, including Barclays and Standard Chartered.
Right.
And the stocks are continuing to plummet.
Yeah, I mean, they rose day before yesterday, which
Yeah.
was Tuesday, which was Wednesday. Today's
7th and
Friday
8th they rose, and then Thursday, Friday
Manisha
they've
was
been
going to
falling.
invest.
in Adani. So
No,
today's
no.
12:30 p.m. afternoon, Friday the 10th. So they rose on 8th
7th and 8th both.
and on 9th, Thursday, and today, I don't know what the status is, but they did fall, yeah.
The Supreme Court will today hear two public interest litigations seeking a court-monitored probe into the short seller Hindenburg's researchers, quote-unquote, conspiracy against the Adani Group. The guys who filed the PIL, one of them is a notorious advocate, ML Sharma, who Abhinandan had the fortune of interviewing.
Yes, you can see my interview with ML Sharma, who is really hila hua.
And he's
That's the
filed.
right word.
He is,
said it.
he said, yeah.
Some really heartbreaking images coming in from Turkey and northern Syria as 3 devastating earthquakes hit Turkey's southern regions on Monday. The death toll has reached about 20,000 people. India has sent relief material under Operation Dost, which includes 6 plane loads of relief material.
And apparently India has also set up a hospital there. But this is, I think, Turkey elections are due sometime soon. And this could not have come for a worse time.
Yeah.
For
There's some really, really heartbreaking images coming of children, families under rubble. So it's very bad.
and some miraculous
Yeah, the
saves
child
also.
that
Some children, little
survived.
kids surviving.
The Guwahati High Court on Thursday allowed the National Investigation Agency to frame charges against Assam MLA Akhil Gogoi and 3 of his associates in connection with Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act protests that took place in December 2019.
And Akhil has already spent a lot of time in prison early when he was arrested as well. I don't know whether he was an MLA then as an activist, but yeah.
The Assam's Child Marriage Act has been in the news, making front page headlines. The Assam police cracked down on child marriages that resulted in arrests of over 2,000 people in a span of 3 days amid opposition, criticizing the move and protests.
In fact, if you're wondering what this is about, basically they've weaponized this law that if you're underage, you'll be arrested. If you're married, even in retrospect. And in the fear, and how many arrests have happened?
Close to 2,000.
2,000 arrests have happened. And it is we'll have to see the data, that it is being seen as a Muslim persecution thing. But what it is having an impact is that now young girls who did get married when they were underage, who are pregnant, are so petrified of going to the hospital that there was one case which is in today's newspaper. She just bled to death because she tried to give birth at home.
There was a very good editorial in Indian Express on this. This is not the way you should be tackling this social problem. And there is already a law, which under which you get 2 years of jail in case of child marriage. So I think you need to socially educate it. But unfortunately, even the organizations, run by Kailash Satyarthi, they are endorsing, Assam's government's decision that in case of child marriages, there should be a case under the Child Marriage Act, Anti-Child Marriage Act. But in case, the woman, the girl has been raped, POCSO should be invoked. So even Kailash Satyarthi's organization is supporting it. But Express really, pointed out that editorial, and it's one of my recommendations, that you need to handle it socially. You haven't.
But what's the law? How are they doing that? Let's say you were married when you were a child, but today you're overage, you'll be arrested anyway.
Yeah, in one of the cases, at least
doing
retrospectively,
it.
they were arrested.
They are.
Ramdev has been booked on charges of promoting enmity and outraging religious feelings over his provocative remarks at a meeting of Seers in Rajasthan's Barmer district.
I love how he said Ramdev. Say Baba Ramdev. Show respect.
And basically, he said a lot of things about Islam and Christianity. A section of lawyers in Tamil Nadu have lodged a protest after the recent appointment of Lakshmana Victoria Gauri as Madras High Court judge. She's been accused of hate speech as a judge of Madras High Court.
Basically, in the dismissing the petition challenging her elevation, the Supreme Court said that you cannot hold her, political views against her.
No, but there is a very good article. There is a problem with the Gauri thingy because there's a my recommendation which came out in Hindu. The 3 senior judges, they are the ones who make the collegium. Okay, so they suggested Gauri's name merely on basing it on her qualifications.
Right.
She qualifies for that. Suitable candidate. Okay, after that the government does the IB investigation. through intelligence bureau.
Sure.
So they are so the system is so opaque. They hid that part that she has written some articles,
I see.
where she has expressed her, that hate speech against Christians and Muslims.
Is
And
it hate speech? Hate speech,
it
or
is
is it?
hate
Well, hate
speech.
speech is so flexible these days. How it's
And the same collegium who had recommended somebody for the Madras High Court twice, he has not been given the. And here, once the collegium gives it and government endorses, and they just hurried up the process.
She was sworn
otherwise
in
it
day before, I
takes-
remember.
it
Even
takes
while
a-
this case was being
Yes,
heard,
yes,
she was being sworn in at
yes.
the same time.
The All India Muslim Personal Law Board on Wednesday told the Supreme Court that Islamic texts do not bar the entry of women into mosques for namaz. After Zoom lays off 13,000 employees, entertainment giant Disney said on Wednesday that it's going to lay off 7,000 employees. Meanwhile, Yahoo today announced that it's going to lay off 20% of its workforce.
Yep.
The Supreme Court dismissed a plea of journalist Rana Ayub challenging summons by the Ghaziabad Special Court in a money laundering case.
So basically, she had gone to Supreme Court saying Ghaziabad court has no jurisdiction. I mean, she lives in Bombay. This is an online thing, but they've said no, they do.
A journalist from Maharashtra, Shashikant Varishe, was run over at a petrol station in Ratnagiri on Tuesday, a day after he wrote an expose on a controversial refinery project in Konkan. It's a shocking case.
And
Coming in
journalists
from
all over
Maharashtra?
India have protested. Press Club of India also has given a statement. Mumbai Press Club is holding a rally today
That's good.
against it.
Yeah.
And we'll
And
have a report. We'll have
We
a
will
report.
have a
about it.
report.
on it. The Animal Welfare Board of India wants February 14 to be celebrated as Cow Hug Day. Hug a cow on February 14. There's a really funny thing. Celebrate Valentine's Day with your significant other. One of these things that I saw. So it's for emotional richness and increasing individual collective happiness.
No, I remember we used to, when I was a political science student, so that every, foreign money, that aid that we get, every, rupee or dollar is attached with some string. So that's what we used to. So we were told that how the Western culture is, going to take over our country. So RSS, I think, is, we know its philosophy. So they just want to undo it. So that is why all important, festivals which have come, which have been imported by
some
us.
Chalo, better than beating up
twist.
couples, yaar. They just divert their attention
That's
to
our
Much
standards
better.
are so
hugging,
low.
hugging cows. Better
Yes.
than-
Right. So let's get into the discussion. Speaking of Valentine's Day, News Laundry has a Valentine's Day special offer. It has nothing to do with cows or hugging or others. It's a special offer that is going to go on till 22nd of February. You can order 2 mystery box hampers. They're priced at 2,000 and 5,000 each. The mystery boxes contain exciting News Laundry merchandise such as the Biru Bala
Why are
and
we saying what it has? If
yeah,
it's
exactly
exciting
that.
and mysterious.
But it's exciting and mysterious mystery box. Handpicked books also. So which book you'll get, that's a mystery. So you can link to this page where you can order this Valentine mystery box. It's in the show notes below. So this is a fantastic way of not just telling someone you appreciate them, but also telling them that I'm slightly, I don't give flowers and other things that are bad for the environment. I support journalism, and I buy you these things that are good for
Is
you.
this your excuse for not buying flowers? It's bad for environment.
No, I don't know. I just have to somehow plug this News Laundry box.
How is it bad for environment? Okay.
So do order that, and you can support News Laundry and journalism, and you can also, as they say in some parts of the country, patao your significant other, guy or girl. Before we move on, we are thinking of having another meetup. Whether we will or not will depend on how many people are in this part of the world. I will be in Michigan, I as an Abhinandan, from the 6th to the 9th of April for a conference. So let us know if you are anywhere around, and if, about 20 to 30 of you are in that area and you would like to have a subscriber meetup, we'll schedule and organize one. So you can write to us at subscription@newslaundry.com. Repeat, subscription@newslaundry.com. And if we get about 20 to 30 people, then we will organize a meetup over there. So yeah, 6th to the 9th of April. Well, we have a new NL Sena up as well. It'll explore the illegal migration routes taken by people to emigrate to the US. You may have read in the news or heard a few weeks ago or 2 months ago that
in a month or two.
and Gujarati guy and his daughter, right, or his child, I don't know whether it was a daughter or son, they fell over the fence and he died, the child survived, or the wife died, there was someone died.
He died. He died for sure.
So there is a lot of this happening. So do contribute to this Endless Enough project where we will explore the whole illegal immigration to the US. So let me start with you, Dinesh. Why do you write this book? I know that it's the most obvious answer is that it is the need of the hour, medicine regulation, and we'll talk about the horrible cases that made the news last month. But is that the only reason, or was it something that triggered from your early experience of being a whistleblower in how Big Pharma works in India?
So basically what happened was after 2013, when the whole Ranbaxy thing unraveled, the US regulators and the US lawmakers basically wanted to learn from that experience because they had failed miserably. I mean, what led to Ranbaxy was their inspection system, their sort of processes to ensure that the quality of medicines for their citizens didn't really work. That was the genesis of that entire thing. So they engaged with me and basically to say, look, what can we do differently? And that was a long, drawn-out process. I worked with the Government Accountability Office there, and I also worked with the Senate staff. And they completely changed the way that they do inspections overseas. So initially, prior to Ranbaxy, they used to do inspections in a very different manner. They used to come here and do paper-based inspections, ask people what they did. After 2013, they became forensic. I mean, I don't know, if the audience has actually seen this. A couple of weeks ago, there was this news that a pharmaceutical company in Gujarat called Intas Pharma. In the recent inspections, the US FDA inspectors found a truckload of shredded documents a few hundred feet away from the manufacturing facility.
Wow.
Now, in the past, they wouldn't have even looked at something like this, right? And this is now published as a part of the inspection report saying we found this truckload of documents, outside the SEZ where the manufacturing facility is. So that's how things changed over there. I tried to work with the Minister of Health here. We tried approaching courts, but we really didn't have any success. And Prashant and I went to the Supreme Court. And
in fact, some regulator has also sent you some sort of a threat of legal action
Yeah,
or
that's what I was saying.
something.
In India,
It was the other
meanwhile,
way
you're
around.
getting threats and notices.
What was that about? You wrote a piece, basically.
No, I mean, we gave an interview after the incident in Gambia. So we gave an interview to India Today. And we had made some statements like the highest levels of the Ministry of Health need to take responsibility for what has happened, because every time these tragedies happen, the national regulator palms off the blame onto the state drug regulator. But it's the national guys who can make policy and reform how the entire system works. So half an hour before our book launch on a Saturday evening at 6 p.m., some hardworking bureaucrat in the CDSCO sent us a very, very menacing legal notice. And we replied to it. They sent another one. We replied to even that one. And since then, we haven't heard back from them.
So what is the status of this case now? Like, I know there were news that the pharma company was raided. Some inspectors went there to check out what their stuff is like. Then what happened?
The government of India has given this Maiden Pharmaceuticals clean chit, basically. They said that we tested the samples. Right. So basically, every pharmaceutical company is required to maintain control samples of every batch that is shipped into the market. We have no idea how they have ensured that these control samples are from that particular batch, because the initial information the regulator put out after raiding the facility was that they weren't following GMP practices. So we don't know how exactly they have ascertained that these were the accurate control samples. And the other thing is the government set up a committee, basically, and that committee has been playing around on the margins of the truth, in the sense that they kept saying that we've been asking the WHO for information about causality, that the causal link between the cough syrups and the deaths, and they are not cooperating with us, and hence there's nothing else to say on this issue. But they are not being completely truthful, because the WHO only assists sovereign countries in, providing some scientific expertise, etc. at the end of the day, it's the responsibility of the Gambian authorities to establish that link, which they have done. They set up a select committee inquiry of their own parliament, and they produced a very detailed report, far better than anything that we have done in the recent past, and clearly blamed Maiden Pharmaceuticals and the cough syrups for the deaths. And apart from the select committee report, the epidemiologists in Gambia who was saying that, the clearest test of whether or not the cough syrups were responsible for the deaths is the fact that after we took the cough syrups off the market, we stopped getting any, reports of deaths, kidney failures. And in epidemiology, that's the surest sign of success in identifying the root cause of death. So instead of corresponding with the Gambian authorities, this committee happily keeps putting the blame on the WHO, saying that WHO is not giving us anything.
Right. Now, even the book, Dinesh, has several cases of extreme laxity and lapses in regulation, which have led to alarming situations, even deaths, including what we discussed in the interview last night. Yet, why doesn't it become an election issue, headline news? Is it too technical? Is it just like we were discussing before we started recording, that now everybody's withdrawing from Adani, but earlier, no one really checked out his finances. Yeah. Same thing with Satyam Raju till, it sank completely.
Though before we get a notice from Adani, we should say that Satyam is declared fraud.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, but before that, everyone was investing in Satyam Raju, till something. So, is it too technical? And if so, how can it become an issue? Because it impacts us, profoundly.
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. That was the reasons why we wrote this book. Because when it comes to health, right, this is not something that we think about on a daily basis unless we really need health services. It's only when we need health services that it dawns upon us that, look, we have to deal with the system, that corrupt, incompetent system that we deal with. We saw this during COVID. If you're willing to shell out a lot of money, you still couldn't get the services that you needed, right? So the point I'm trying to make here is that health is one of these things where it never figures in our common parlance unless we absolutely need it, and by the time it's too late. That's one factor. The other factor is that over successive administrations, I think that our government has essentially created a very successful strategy, basically saying we are the pharmacy to the world, or the pharmacy to the developing world. This is a deliberate, well-funded campaign to try and advance the interests of the industry globally and locally, and they've been very successful at it. There's absolutely no issue around that. A combination of these two factors essentially kind of hides the complexities and the difficulties that we face with our drug supply, which only manifests when we have to go to the hospital, when we take the prescription up to the pharmacy to get it filled. Then it hits us. And by the time you're in no position, you're the most vulnerable position at that point in trying to do anything about it.
So why doesn't it become a talking point for news? Because, American media is considered, it dumbs down everything. It plays to the gallery. It is as good or bad as ours, which I don't agree with, but I don't want to get into that. But even there, even a Fox, even a CNN, which will play this balloon being shot down on loop, or they will keep playing some alarming visual on loop, which is not really giving you information. Yet, like Obamacare, what it has, what it doesn't, became a huge talking point in headlines, in debates. It became an election issue. The opioid crisis is an election issue. It does make, primetime headline.
Right.
Health-related discussions do make primetime headlines.
Right.
Even though American media is considered a dumbed-down media.
Right.
Why is that not an issue here? You think people don't care? They're okay? What's the problem?
Well, if you look, I'm sorry, go on. If you look around the newsrooms, Abhinandan, tell me which newsroom actually has a health beat. I mean, if you don't invest in actually building competence, because remember, you have to be able to explain things to people in terms and language that they understand, right? We have one reporter in the country today who does that, Priyanka Pula. If you read her reports, and she does it like, she takes a long time to do the stories, but she explains it in a way that people understand. She's a freelance reporter, right? Tell me which newsroom actually has a health beat. We are happily, the health journalism in this country is essentially, largely in two different buckets. One is what the pink papers report in quarterly, earnings. That's what we report as part of health journalism. Quarterly numbers made by hospitals, pharma companies, and things like that.
Right.
The other thing is what the ministry, sort of puts out or leaks, strategically to one of the pet, reporters who work for these large media organizations. About every year, we successfully did well on mortality deaths and infant mortality and family health. It's the same metrics every year. And every year we have sustainable development goals. I mean, go back and look at your reporting around what really happens with the metrics that health ministry puts out. That is the quality of our reporting right now. So unless we invest in, who's going to explain it to people in a way that they can actually understand?
So it's
No, I get
highly
your
technical.
point. But there is health beat
But it's
in
not.
most of the newspapers, but they are not investigating into the issues that they should. So basically they are just carrying, they become the mouthpiece of the government,
Right.
whatever the government is. There is a help.
Also, what happens typical of all beats is that you're saddled with 2-3 more beats, so you're not really
Focused on.
given time to acquire
True.
expertise, and then that's when you can actually investigate
And it's
stuff.
very technical.
Because
Yeah,
they
it's very
take health beat as a very light beat, so
Yeah.
they will give 2-3 more beats too.
If I can add also, there's also a bit of a class issue.
Hmm.
In 1986, when that tragedy happened in JJ Hospital, because JJ Hospital is, a well-known hospital, a lot of the rich and well-heeled also.
For
go
those of you
there.
who are wondering, it's in the book, I think it's in the first chapter. In JJ Hospital, there were 14 deaths because of a particular medicine, and it's been discussed
It's the
in
same.
Prashant's book.
Like the cough syrup, the diethylene glycol poisoning. And one of the things that struck us then, when we were researching for the book, was that the media outrage.
Yeah.
At that time there was T.N. Neenan and all who were reporters.
India Today
Yeah.
did a lot on it, I
who
remember back
went
then.
after the government, right? And they created so much pressure that a commission of inquiry had to be set up. What we are seeing now is, if the WHO raises an issue at the international level, then it gets wall-to-wall coverage, like what happened with the Gambian case. The WHO raised the first red flag. When children in Jammu die in PGA, IMER because of this poison cough syrup, only like 2 North Indian newspapers covered it in detail, Tribune and Indian Express. It barely got coverage elsewhere. And the Uzbekistan deaths, again, didn't get that much coverage because the WHO didn't raise the first
And
red
also the
flag.
coverage it gets is a more nationalistic, defensive.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
That's trying to.
Because the things get
India ko
lost because
badnaam
there
kar
is a
rahe.
counter propaganda by the government, which is
Now, I'd just like to move on to what happened in Parliament yesterday. It was a noisy. Ruckus is the word. What's the word that this?
Ruckus, yeah.
Ruckus is in Parliament.
देश के उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए खपा दी है।
Yeah, there was Modi
Modi Adani,
happening.
bhai.
हाँ जैसे वो वाले मिलके
मलाई खाई something.
ऐसे समझा
Something like that.
भारत को something मलाई
Yeah,
खाई.
I hope I have not invented that. and that's
No,
why
no,
I
no. It was there. It was there.
पता चला है खुद
that tells your mindset.
No, no.
exposed.
It was there. That was the slogan. She did. It's not her own biases and prejudices talking. And what struck me was Rahul Gandhi looks very confident, like he knows what he's talking about, which isn't change. And I think the hubris point is being reached by Modi, because what he said yesterday, I'm sure it made people on his own benches uncomfortable. He says ED has done what no one could do. It's got all the opposition together. I mean, is he saying that the ED is a tool? I mean, is he endorsing what everyone says about agencies? But more importantly, he said, I'll just this is the exact quote which will play.
और आदरणीय सभापति जी, देश देख रहा है, एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है, एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है। अरे नारे बोलने के लिए भी उनको बदल करना पड़ता है। कोई भी ये बोलता है, जन के पक्ष से आवाज की जवाब देना है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, एक कन्विक्शन के
So what he's basically saying is that me versus all of you, and it's a no contest.
One person.
Yeah, I'm one person, and all of you are not enough
no
to take me on.
contest.
It's now that kind of arrogance is something that I haven't seen him demonstrate before. Not directly. I mean, there is an arrogance in how he talks, his body language, but him saying it like that, I'm so big that all of you together are not enough to take me on alone, as if the rest of his party are like they're just there for time pass. So tali bajane hai. Just when we used to play basketball, right? There's one really funny guy, Bijju. So how he'd get into your mind is that when you're playing and one guy keeps missing, so he says, "Arey, isko bhi shot lene do, ye tali bajane thodi na hai. Chal beta, tu bhi shot le le." So he'd like get into your mind, make you miss. So बाकी सब बीजेपी वाले ताली बजाने बैठे हैं. मतलब it's just Modi. That's the first time I've seen him demonstrate such arrogance so directly.
No, I think it was the most crude way of showing arrogance, but he was arrogant right from the beginning.
Yeah.
In 2014, even before he was sworn in as the Prime Minister, and I was with DNA editor, so we all were, given the invitation to meet him. I think it was around Holi time. So he, and with the way he came down, from the dais, with Amit Shah, and just meeting all the reporters, not all the reporters. He was just shaking hands with some and passing by. So we could very clearly see the arrogance, and he demonstrated by saying that 56 inch ka chati. I mean, so that is arrogance only. But yes, I mean, what you are saying is right. I mean, that was he reached the height.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the height of arrogance.
The entire country has been witness how one individual has prevailed over so many. This is in English. He said it in Hindi.
Wow.
They are having to take turns even to shout slogans, but I remain unshakable. So it's, I just found that strange.
Yeah.
But what do you make of how Parliament, and of course they expunged the remarks of Kharge and Rahul.
I mean, I didn't watch the whole speech, but I saw little snippets of it. What stood out to me was his following. I mean, he's very comfortable in his own skin. Whenever you see him speak publicly, right? He's extremely comfortable, very folklorish, use examples that are like colloquial. Toward the end of yesterday's speech, right, he seemed rattled. He visibly was rattled yesterday. That's the first time that I've seen him, so something is getting under his skin. Whether it is just the backbenchers kind of shouting slogans.
Yeah, in fact, Raman sir and I were discussing, I think
right?
he's not used to in your face kind of,
exactly,
mocking him in your face.
Yeah. So that was different yesterday. Because Lok Sabha speech, I mean, obviously, he was making fun of everybody, right? Reciting poetry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yesterday was the first time that I saw him visibly rattled.
That is also quite possible because in these 8 years, he has never held any press conference because he fears that. I mean, he just goes one-to-one, when it comes to the interview. So yes, yesterday and the shouting and his team was, of course,
thumping the bench.
Right.
But this expunging the remarks, is it important? Like someone explained to me, why does it matter so much? Is it for posterity that people will know what was said in Parliament, what was not? Why does it become such a big deal?
That's the idea? History in making, na? History in record. So
but up the video, is it just because we are now used to seeing that if anybody wants to consult what was the debate in Parliament like, they look at the Parliament speeches. But that now we have YouTube, so whether it's there or not, people can see it, right?
Well, on YouTube and social media, but I was noticing the channels also weren't showing it. That it's been expunged, so we can't show it. Though I don't think that's a rule. Can you be called up or by the parliamentary committee if you show? So you're essentially, I think, in this day and age, indicating you can't.
You can't write in the newspaper, so I presume you can't even show it.
Are you sure?
Yes, in the newspapers, yes.
Video we don't know yet.
So we used to, whenever we used to report Parliament, so the expunged, we simply write the expunged thingy, but we never used to mention what he had said. I mean, that way, Rahul Gandhi came up with all those expunged thing on his...
he put it on Twitter.
He put it on Twitter. He did that.
No, so legally speaking, if it is on the parliamentary record, and no matter how defamatory or otherwise illegal it may be, you as a journalist, when you reproduce it, that immunity extends even to you. So that kind of, and Parliament is that one rare bastion of, like unfiltered free speech until the speaker decides to start expunging the
Right.
record.
So, but that's very interesting, because then as a journalist, if I pick up Rahul Gandhi's remarks, which have been expunged, Adani can very well tomorrow say that,
Exactly.
Yes.
send a defamation
Oh,
notice
so
or
that's the
whatever.
reason. So it's
So
a
it
technical
can-
reason.
It can really kind of spook people into raising the
also-
questions that Rahul is raising.
Also, I think how many times we remember, these videos have an immediate impact, but we don't remember them for long, But people, the historians and the political scientists, when they write a book on the basis of, this parliament recordings, so that will, long last. So that is why I'm saying it is history in the making. So they're very particular about it. That is why they have expunged.
And I don't think those remarks, why would they be expunged? Because the questions that he asked were questions. It wasn't an allegation or defamatory. He's like, for example, I'm reading it out, one of them, how much money has Adani given to BJP in the last 20 years through electoral bonds? How many times did Adani join you on a visit?
And they've expunged
Yeah,
that,
how
that
many
question.
times did Adani travel to a foreign country just after you did? I mean, these are not defamatory questions. I mean, they're just questions. I don't know if questions can be defamatory.
So it's
But
about,
yes.
the Parliament has a rule book, right, on what is allowed and not allowed, specifically because the speech over there is largely, protected. The problem, this is not a new problem, forever. There has been a problem with expunging all kinds of words, and a lot of MPs like Derek O'Brien and Bawa and all have been complaining that so every time they raise a point of order during your speech, they interrupt the flow because they're asking the speaker to try and expunge something or the other. So this has been a larger issue with how parliamentary proceedings are conducted, where they use these rules, parliamentary rules, to try and disrupt speeches and keep getting the record struck. Ideally, the speaker should be a lot more.
Oh, the
liberal
speaker's
about
partisanship
this.
they don't even hide
Yeah,
it.
he went into a long lecture telling the opposition, don't, up.
Like Meera Kumar used to try to be, although even she was partisan, but it wasn't like, now though it's a straight up, man.
I used to love Sagma.
He was very
his-
popular as a speaker.
Yeah, his smile and even Meera Kumar.
Yeah, but
she
politics
used to
was very
smile,
different then.
Yeah.
There wasn't this.
Yes.
Today, forget being caught talking to an opposition party. I was telling Dinesh and Prashant yesterday, there are people in government who have known me for years and have been friendly with me. And if there are no cameras around, will shake my hand, sit and chit chat. But when there are cameras, they just step 8 steps away from me and pretend they have never met
Radioactive.
me. So they're just petrified about how will Modi see if I'm hanging out with so and so. If
Right.
I'm hanging out, it's pathetic. That's.
Is there an expectation, and I don't know the parliamentary rules all that well, but is there an expectation that if a question is raised by the opposition, then the governing party has to respond to those questions? If you expunge the questions, then you can claim that, look, nobody's
they-
actually asked those questions.
The government is claiming that the questions are allegations. And which
Baseless.
and they're baseless allegations. You don't have any proof to raise those questions.
But that's the whole point of protective speech in the parliament,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
but you have to have a fair empire for that to
Correct,
work out,
correct,
right?
correct.
So that's
I think Rahul
That's not
Gandhi's speech was actually pretty pointed.
Yeah.
I think he really stuck to the point of Adani and crony capitalism and asking very pointed questions of BJP. He didn't waver. It didn't go into a philosophical zone or whatever. Modi, on the other hand, it was a 1.5-hour speech.
80 minutes or something like
Yeah,
that.
and I think by the end of it, he was basically, again, he's just talking to his voters. It's pretty clear because he doesn't mention Adani. He talks about welfare schemes, which he knows gets him the votes. He talks about national security. And, little things like यूपीए के टाइम में अनाउंसमेंट्स होते थे कि ध्यान से ये मत उठाओ वो मत उठाओ बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट का डर होता था you've not had, and these kind of things do connect with the voter. It's true that we have not had a terror attack of that scale, and that really connects, and that's what he was doing, playing on his.
The Adani question is fine. So far, but when you try to journalize it and call it crony capitalism, Congress did the same, yeah. So you can't blame Modi for this.
सुन लिया अफ्रीका मुफत खोरों. Not to brag or anything, but News Laundry Hafta features in the top 50 in the world on SoundCloud in the news and politics category for podcasts. So do subscribe and see what you're missing Because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Subscribe, help keep news independent and free.
All News Laundry podcasts are available on iTunes and Stitcher and any other podcast platform.